Let's talk a little bit. You just released, excuse me. We're going to be talking, you just released a new study. We're going to be talking about some relevant slides there on the creator economy. And then you're going to be rushing over to the West Hall stage. So if you like what you hear here, follow her over to West Hall stage 405, 40 minutes
Take the loop
after we end.
Fun.
Loop is really good. Follow her there. But talk about the study on maturing creator economy that you did. Maybe some of the findings that were super surprising. What did you find?
Well, I have to admit that a lot of the findings weren't exactly surprising or mind-blowing. It was really more of confirmation of what I'd been hearing from creators and marketers, and probably what a lot of you have been experiencing as well. And I think the interesting part was that there's a lot of different takeaways depending on whether you're a brand or a creator or another stakeholder within the creator economy. But I think the biggest thing is that the creator economy is maturing. And we're seeing that really across all aspects of the industry, including in how creators are making money. So if I can figure out how to use this clicker.
I don't know how to use it either, so you're on your own.
Maybe there. Nope.
I don't know here.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there we go. Look at that. Yep. Sorry.
Next slide. Okay. So if you're looking at the way that creators are making money off of social media, what you can see is that sponsored content still is absolutely the #1 revenue stream, and that's followed by platform payouts, meaning things like ad revenue sharing and creator funds. But what we're seeing is that alternative revenue streams, even though they are a very small slice of the earnings pie, they are growing the quickest. So things like tipping and gifting, merchandising, and subscriptions. And these are mostly things that I like to call direct audience monetization tactics. And so the overall finding for me from this is that we already know that creators have changed how people spend their time online. We know they're indirectly impacting purchase decisions through influencer marketing, but now they're also directly changing how we spend our money. And that is that has a lot of implications for the economy at large as well.
Why do you think that's happening?
Well, I think for one, creators have these very strong audiences and communities that they've built up over many years. I think one of the big misconceptions, at least among the marketer audience, is still that, there's a lot of overnight sensations, right? But this is a lot of work that creators have put into building these strong communities and connections, and they're using that in order to bring products or bring services or more content to their audiences that really resonate with them. And we're entering this era of more curated experiences and content and products, and creators really are at the forefront of that, and consumers are choosing to spend their money with them.
Yeah, which is great for creators. It's interesting when you look at the data here. Sponsorship's still going up, but the percentage of growth is slowing.
Yeah.
Whereas other things are a much smaller base, but their percentage of growth is much higher, like 50% growth or whatever, which is great in tipping and other things. When do you think some of these other categories will meet or exceed the sponsorship level on an overall basis, if ever?
Well, we don't see that happening over the next couple of years. We only forecast out until about 2027, so they're going to remain much smaller. I think, if you're looking at the amount of budget that marketers are still putting into creators, it is growing. I mean, it's about 16% growth, and that's just on social media. And that really is going to continue making up the majority of creator revenue streams for the foreseeable future.
Now, what do you think about YouTube? I mean, almost all the payouts from the platforms are coming from YouTube. What did your research tell you, and what's going on there? And can we get any of the other platforms to pay, or is that ship already sailed?
I have been trying to get them to pay through my research for the past couple of years. I think
there's
a lot of
half of all creators.
There's a lot of different reasons for it. I think YouTube has always prioritized creators, and from the very beginning understood how important creators were to their business. There's been a lot of hesitancy at the other platforms, particularly Meta, among the executives to roll out really robust revenue sharing programs with creators. I do think eventually that is going to have to change. But one of the reasons for it, too, is that especially when it comes to short form videos, so thinking Reels or TikTok, it's hard to monetize. And we've seen that over and over again in their earnings because those ads are displayed in between videos. And this is certainly not an excuse, but it is a reason, because when it's hard to monetize those videos, it's harder to attribute as well, and it's harder to share that money then with creators. But we saw YouTube roll out ad revenue sharing for shorts. They figured out a way to do it. I think that's going to put a lot more pressure on Meta and TikTok to figure something out. But, they definitely have some catching up to do there.
Well, Meta historically has been very good at copying other platforms.
Absolutely.
So I'm optimistic that if they want to do it, they will. I'm not so sure they want to. I mean, look, Instagram's making more money in ad revenue than YouTube we saw.
Which I was surprised that was such big news. I mean, not that it's not newsworthy, but it's something that we've seen in our research for years that Instagram makes a lot more ad revenue than YouTube does. And I think that just goes to show also how important Instagram has become to Meta's business. This year, we're predicting that over a third of all of Meta's worldwide ad revenues are actually coming from Instagram.
Which is wild, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's all funding the metaverse stuff, so they can't give it to creators. They've got to fund the Oculus. So TikTok, TikTok has 14 different ways that creators can get paid, but none of it is very significant. How do you think about that? And then I'd love to know what you think about TikTok getting shut down.
Wow. Excuse me. I don't think TikTok will get shut down this year. I think, there's, no matter what happens with this bill or whatever bill they come up with, there's going to be a long legal battle. And, we already know that TikTok is going to pull out all of the stops. And the ways that creators get paid on TikTok, I think it's the same issue, right? We've seen a lot of different problems with their monetization tactics. I hear all the time that it's a headache for creators. I think they also have to figure it out. One area where they've been really strong, though, is in tipping and gifting. So, like YouTube is the majority of the platform payouts. TikTok and Twitch actually are leading in tipping and gifting and driving a lot of the growth there.
Snap does a little of that too, right?
It does do a lot of that. I think the tipping and gifting part for TikTok in particular is really smart, because it's teaching their users to make purchases in very small sums on the platform in order then to drive more social commerce, particularly from brands. Of course, how hard they're pushing TikTok Shop right now.
Yeah, I was surprised how much revenue was going through. Is it diamonds? Is it like $2 billion last year or something like that? Yeah. And the things that creators are doing to incent people to pay them and give them money, and it's a little bit weird. I mean, I worry about some people. Like one farmer in Australia gave $100,000 to his favorite creator. It's like, what'd you sell all your cows?
Yeah, I know it is. And honestly, when we published this research and I showed it to my boss, and she looked at me and she goes, "Are people really doing this? Honestly, are they tipping creators on live streams on TikTok?" And I'm like, yeah, they are.
Oh yeah, that's some big money there. Okay, so if you were to advise creators about their revenue mix and how to think about managing it, what to do and where to put, because creators don't have infinite time, they have very little time. How would you tell a creator to start thinking about moving beyond sponsorships? Where should they go first? What should they lean into?
Well, I think diversification is key, right? I think a lot of creators have come to the realization that they don't want to be at the mercy of brands and at platforms, and they're changing policies and changing budgets. I think, things like tipping and gifting are low-hanging fruit. And we've seen that opens the door to monetization for a lot of creators who really want to monetize their content. I do think brand sponsorships really are where most of the money is still to be made right now. And I think a lot of creators are still highly focused on that. The problem is that even though there's more money going into influencer marketing, because the market has matured so much, marketers have gotten a lot smarter in terms of how they're spending their budget. So they're looking to optimize their campaigns. They're already working with established creators who they have relationships with. So that means that there's fewer deals to go by. And that's just even more impetus for creators to really think about diversifying. And affiliate marketing is actually something that I'm expecting to see a lot of growth this year and going forward. And one of the reasons for that is, the optimization of campaigns for marketers, but also because it's another great way for creators to get their foot in the door of monetizing.
Yeah, affiliate marketing's okay, but you've got to be able to move the needle, and the payouts are often much less. So it becomes part of that. Well, if I don't have an expensive sponsorship, maybe I'll do affiliate marketing, right?
Yes. And I think it's something that, as you're a creator and you're just starting out, or if you're treating content creation as a side hustle and just want to earn a little extra money, it's a great way to do it. It's not sustainable, right? And in the long term. And that was one of the things I actually wrote about in this recent report, was that as we're seeing more marketers turn to affiliate marketing deals, we're seeing that creators realize that refusing one of those deals is like leaving money on the table, but they also can't make a living off of that. They can't pay their bills off of affiliate marketing. So, it really is important to nurture those relationships as a brand with those creators that are performing well in affiliate marketing, and work to then build longer term relationships with them, because that also is most beneficial for brands and creators.
Yeah, I love the affiliate marketing idea as a way to get your foot in the door and to get comfortable with a brand, and a brand comfortable with you, because brands still have trouble giving them their brand away to the creator to interpret for them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's still one of the biggest objections that I hear from marketers, but also the need for content is at an all-time high right now. And creators have really become an important source of content for a lot of brands. And we're seeing that not only in affiliate marketing, but things like content licensing and boosting, which are all things that marketers are leaning more heavily into right now.
You know what I'm also worried about, though, is, in the early days of influencer marketing, creator marketing, and sponsorships, it was a separate thing on a campaign. Now, it's kind of just become part of the media mix. You give it to the media buyer, it's like, okay, we need TV, we need internet, we need web, we need performance, we need creator. Rather than thinking about it as a unique partnership, it's just another line item on a spreadsheet. Are you seeing that? What are you hearing from marketers about that?
I wouldn't say it's just another line item on the spreadsheet, because getting to that line item on the spreadsheet was a really long journey. So I think that's already progress. I do agree, though, that we need to break down a lot of those silos, because one of the themes that I've been hearing even in this show is that content is just content, right? And really figuring out how all those pieces of the puzzle work together is something that all marketers and brands need to be thinking about. And creators, again, are at the forefront of it because they're creating some of the most engaging and relevant content today.
Yeah, what have you seen? I'm just curious on this. I know it wasn't in your recent studies, but use of AI by creators and marketers, is that a worrisome thing? We've seen some marketers do UGC with creators and they steal their image and likeness and they make their own, stuff. And there's all sorts of weird bubbling things out there. Do you think this is a problem, an issue, or what's your take on it? What are you hearing from your clients?
I think ultimately, I think it's a tool that is going to help marketers and creators. I know that there are always kind of these horror stories out there in the media. I try to cut through some of the noise. I mean, there's always going to be bad actors, right? But I think, the most important thing is for brands and marketers to speak to each other about the use of AI. I still don't think it's talked about as much as it needs to be as, you're doing your deal negotiations and talking about content creation. And the other part of that is, from a lot of the research that I've seen, consumers still aren't completely receptive to AI. So a lot of the big ideas of, AI taking jobs from creators, I don't think is going to happen. I think, we still need that human touch, and people still want that human connection, which creators are really good at. But I do think in every industry, people with AI skills will end up replacing people without AI skills. So it's a time when it's really important for creators to really fine tune and read up and hone their AI skills in order to stay competitive.
Yeah, we heard that from Mark too. And I think we've heard that a couple times here, where it's really a way that you creators can up level, but also in many ways, as Daniel Abbas said, Sunday, it's a new wave of creativity is going to come out, because the skills, the physical, little skills are going to be much easier to master.
And I'm so excited about the idea of globalization that AI provides with translation and really getting this content in front of other audiences in a way that we really couldn't even think about a year ago, 2 years ago.
What's some of the other stuff you saw in your recent research that you think's interesting, surprising, you want to highlight?
Yeah, so I have a couple of reports coming out, and one of this is really looking at these alternative revenue streams, but the next is on creator commerce. And I think that's one of the things that I'm super excited about this year. I've been calling it the creator era, or the beginning of the creator era, but it's also the year of commerce. And we're seeing so much more content on social media and on digital channels, really overall becoming shoppable. And I think creators are going to play a really big role in that. And I'm excited to start exploring and seeing where that's going to go.
You want to pre-release anything that or just give me your opinion on whether you think the shopping and shoppable videos and the live stuff, all this, is it going to happen in the US? I mean, it's big in Asia for sure, but are we the same, and will that happen here?
Okay. So it's happening already.
Okay.
I'm not as bullish on live stream shopping as some people are. It doesn't mean it's not going to be a thing. It certainly is. I think there is a market for it, but it's not going to be what it's like in Asia. The way that we use digital channels and services, and the way that we grew up shopping is very, very different. That doesn't mean it won't happen 10, 15, 20 years down the line, but I think for now it's limited to cases like limited edition product launches, exclusive products, and it does very, very well for that. But to think of it as a way that we are primarily shopping or a mainstream activity, I'm not seeing that right now.
Okay, I was going to ask Mark this, but I didn't want to because he couldn't say anything anyway, but I want to get your opinion. So, the things that they're doing for Amazon, right? So Amazon Prime, it's going to come out on Prime, probably Thanksgiving, around Christmas. Main time for them in shopping. Do you think they're going to fix and figure out how to make it shoppable?
Do I think they're going to fix and figure out how to make it shoppable?
How the Mr. Beast videos that they're putting out on Amazon Prime will be shoppable on the television?
I mean, I think they're certainly going to try. I think it's really smart, this partnership. I think, for Amazon, getting in front of a new audience, who, Mr. Beast's audience, of course, it's really good, especially in this, era where you're seeing subscription fatigue. We're also, raising prices of a lot of these subscriptions. So I think this is a really good way of attracting more people to Amazon Prime Video. And of course, they work on a flywheel. So the idea then is to drive them to their e-commerce sites. I think it's certainly going to be something that's top of mind for them.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching. Absolutely.
Same.
Well, when we talk about creator commerce, a lot of it is trying to sell other people's products.
Yep.
What about creators making their own products? We hear a lot about Feastables and how great that is. How do you feel about the trend in general, and what are you seeing for creators building their own brands?
I think it's on the rise. I think it's going to continue going up. I think, the end goal for pretty much any creator is to expand their brand and business. And, one of the number one ways of doing that is by launching their own products. I don't think every creator is going to be able to do it. Not every creator is a Mr. Beast. They're not going to have a Feastables. But I think we're going to see a lot more of it, and consumers are biting. And that's in the research actually that's coming out in my report with the number of people who are buying from influencer founded brands. And I don't have the figure on the top of my head, but it's higher than you would expect. Let's put it that way.
So a lot of your clients are marketers? A lot of
marketers and advertisers.
And so what are you hearing from them? Is there some trends you can tease out of your conversations with them that, like, oh, this is surprising. I didn't know that was happening.
So I think one of the biggest changes has been that when I first started covering influencer marketing and the creator economy, there was a lot of skepticism and hesitation around the practice, and people were asking me why we're covering it and why it's important. And now it's turned into a question of how should we be doing this? I think most marketers now understand the value of creators. I think the biggest issue is still within measurement. They want to be able to prove that their campaigns are working. Excuse me. And so I think that's going to be the next era for them, is figuring out how to make these campaigns measurable to drive more performance that they can track and target. And I think that relates really well to seeing things like affiliate marketing rising, as well as, boosting and content licensing, which we talked a little bit about.
Does anybody have a question for Jasmine before we let her move on to her next session? I'm happy to come out there. Yeah, I've got a question right here.
For companies and brands that already have physical products and then after are building social platforms and YouTube, do you have any recommendations instead of the creators moving into selling products if you already have a big catalog of products?
So as a brand using social platforms, I mean, absolutely, you should be building a strong social presence. What we're seeing is that social media overall is just taking up a bigger role at the marketing and at marketing table, meaning that, what's happening on social media really is determining a lot of brand and marketer strategies at the same time as it's defining more of what we shop and buy. I think, you need to figure out where your audience, your target audience, is most likely to be spending time, and really work on community building and advertising and tying all of that together into a holistic approach to reach those consumers where they are.
Yeah, and I'll add one thing in there. There's a company called Motom, M-O-T-O-M, that does custom storefronts for creators, for brands. And so if you're working with creators of a lot of products to sell, you can do these first-party storefronts with them that will draw. Then you can see all the data and see what. I know you've got to run. One more question?
Okay? I'll do one more question.
One more question right over here. Real quick.
What are the top 3 ways that we should be supporting our creators as brands, and how do we get your news?
Top three ways to support brands, and how do we get your newsletter?
That is a good question.
Support creators from brands. Sorry.
I think number one is, speak to creators, understand what their challenges are. I still think that there is a little bit of a disconnect between brands and creators. Number 2, pay creators fairly. I know that, budgets are limited, but really figuring out, ways to make sure that creators are fairly compensated for their work. And I don't know, Jim, do you have a third? I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Long-term partnerships.
Yeah, long-term partnerships.
Or don't think of them as just a fly-by-night scattershot. I'm going to shoot and go. Work with them long-term, because as you were talking about, you can start with affiliates. They start working, they understand you, and you work together really well over time. I mean, we talk a lot about Dude Perfect. Dude Perfect did this with Nerf early on, and it was a big plus for both of them.
Absolutely. And it also lessens the risk right?
Yeah,
For brands when
absolutely.
you're in a long-term relationship, and it feels more, I hate this word, but authentic to consumers when you are working with a creator long-term. And my newsletter, you can find it at emarketer.com. I also post a lot on LinkedIn.
She's great. Everyone should follow her on LinkedIn. Jasmine Enberg. Just follow her.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim.
Jasmine, thank you very much.
Thank you.
She's running over to talk to the recess therapy people at 11:30 at West Hall 225. We're going to have recess therapy back over here later today too. So Jasmine, I know you got to run. She's not going to be able to answer questions because she's got to go do that. But I want a big round of applause for Jasmine.
Thank you.
One of the real amazing bright spots and minds in the creator economy. So thank you. Yeah, just leave it there.